Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the MI podcast. Today's episode is very special and very interesting as well because within this episode, we'll talk about the mental aspects. Earlier episodes, we've talked about a lot of things within marketing, about techniques, what is trending, what is different industry, marketing for different industries per se, different type of methods used, what is kind of really achieving in terms of as a marketer, what is the ROI that you get. So a lot of technical aspects as well as aspects which are skill based. The most important thing I would say for any marketer or working professional is the mental aspect. Any kind of corporate working professional, especially when you have more responsibilities as you go further, within the corporate ladder. Many, young people also starting their own businesses. They are getting, like we hear about getting investment funding. So then responsibilities kind of increase. So handling a huge amount of people, their expectations, dealing with their behaviors, how you have to check your behavior, your faculties, how you have to maintain your energy. Sometimes you have to detach. How do you kind of rewind? So a lot of mental aspect is there on mindset, which is very important because we have seen how a mental fatigue is there, as well as mental health crisis also somewhere or the other is being discussed within a lot of western countries, even India. Maybe it was just not discussed, but because of social media now it is. So how do you kind of navigate through all this to give put your best foot forward? So it's not just feeling fully detached and not realizing your responsibilities. It is within your responsibilities, handling them and how to handle yourself in the process. So we'll kind of discuss a lot of important things, for marketers with the mindset aspect of it. So awesome. So we have a very special guest with us. We have with us Ishita. Hi, Ishita. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing amazing. How are you?
I'm also doing great. Awesome. So Ishita, where are you joining us from?
So I'm joining from Ahmedabad, India, and I have been closely working with Joyful Spaces.
That's
So
great. Awesome, awesome. So, Ishita, then you could just paint a bit of picture about yourself, like your background, where you all have studied, and what you're doing currently, so that the audience will know a little bit more about you.
hi, I'm Ishita, and I'm a healer. I have closely worked with marketing and consumer psychology, even user experience design. I would say that I'm an experimental designer who believes that in today's world there are two things that can, help people integrate joy. One is working on their well-being, understanding their unique spot, and understanding how they can serve the world with their uniqueness. So I'm closely working right now on well-being and creating joyful spaces at work. And yeah.
So, Ishita, in terms of like you talked about, creating joyful spaces. Now, if you see the corporate environment is, quite competitive, and as leaders within, your company or in general the industry, you have to, maintain a bit of an authority, like then. In terms of the results are happening, people are doing things on time. So bit of that pressure also has to be put on the people working for you. So how do you maintain a balance where you are talking about a joyful working space and also it being kind of competitive at the same time?
I think one very important aspect is understanding when you have to be a motivational person versus when you have to be very directed towards what they need to do. That's the first thing as a leader that you really need to understand. The second thing when it comes to competitive environment is to understand the value of patience. Like people are not patient. And the second being that, being still more with the process, being
Hmm.
more process oriented, at the same time understanding that people do need that empathy and communicating things in the right way. So communication is the key.
Hmm. That's right. I've also kind of noticed this. I feel, earlier there's a perception when you used to talk about communication, just like how you speak a certain language. When you used to say, okay, this person has good communication skills in the corporate, it was like a perception, yeah, he can speak English well. But I think now it's gone beyond that, where your communication is, where you it's very kind of clear what you mean, and it is out there, like there is some action you expect, some end goal, everything, there is a clarity. So there is no like very less scope for a kind of a mixed messaging, or um, lack of understanding that the other person gets. So it's kind of clear whenever I've seen, like in terms of people interviews where they're hiring, they are people, big power, in decision makers. This look, first thing they look at is structured thinking, right? The person is able to structure, and this is within communication also. It has a huge impact where your thinking is structured. Like we might see a lot of interviews of, like celebrities, actors. They say, what do you like about the director? So they say that, okay, this person was very clear in what he wanted, his vision. So that is the same thing, like where you are in that position. So I'm definitely right. And as I feel like, just because your language is good in that, but there is a lot of layering in communication, and there is no limit of how good you can get in it. So anything you can say about that, Ishita?
I think like the first thing that comes to my mind is hashtag कि आप कहना क्या चाहते हो. So that
That's
is
right.
very important. Like being very clear with the objectives. Because if I'm
Hmm.
executing a session, an event, or
Hmm.
even a strategy, then the what, where, when, how are so important. Because if you don't
Hmm.
understand those aspects, then your communication is not creating any output. So the
That's right.
so the end goal or the success point or the solution driven approach is very important right now.
That's right. And I'm sure everyone out there who's listening will, you would have kind of even experienced this when you have a person, you has is in an important position. First thing you observe is very clarity of thought and their communication. So that is something where they have differentiated themselves and won over confidence and credibility of the people around them. Yeah, this person can do it because he's very clear in his thinking, and that same clarity he will convey to people who are working from him. So yeah, that is just some kind of a takeaway for
Yeah.
guys. And yeah.
And I also feel that in that very position where you are, it is very important that how consistently you communicate with your team members. And
Hmm.
as a leader,
That's
how
right.
much you stand up for them. So that creates a lot of value.
That's right. Another great point to note that your communication has to be a constant process. There has some be some strategy involved. So, like, say you are leading a marketing team. Are you having those regular, meetings with them, just in terms of, at least if not taking their inputs in terms of, what they have done, what reports and all. You're communicating what you want from the company, or what the company has achieved, what the company is looking at. Somewhere, if this is happening regularly, it creates that sense of feeling of ownership within the people who are working for you. They also feel a part of this, right, this journey. So definitely it should be kind of maintained. As we all have worked more in the corporate sector, we have kind of got better in terms of communicating thing to a large team. You have tools also today where you are managing projects, so everyone knows where they are at that point within that project. What is expected of them. So it's easier said than done, but definitely if you have the complete team who is kind of really invested and is following in terms of their behavior, communication, as well as handling this tool properly, then I feel that's the best case scenario. Awesome. So, Ishita, then with respect to this particular discussion on mindset, we'll start off with, for marketers, if you could like define like what would be a winning mindset, and how do you cultivate the same to get more success?
I think when we say winning mindset, it's about how solution driven you are. and the way you shape your perspectives. So, having a positive outlook towards things, at the same time, being open to criticism and feedback. I think
Hmm.
giving and receiving feedback, the way you give and receive feedback, is very important and crucial when it comes to winning mindset. And then having a strategy to achieve that success path, like, having a proper sequential map is very
Hmm.
important, as well as being that compass that you know that you not everything is going to be as you plan it to be. So
Hmm.
being ensuring that I'll travel towards north in my life. i may not
Hmm.
I may not succeed necessarily in what I wanted right now, but
Hmm.
because people who are very success driven again are very susceptible to failures. If they
Hmm.
fail once, they would feel they are a failure. So,
Hmm.
winning mindset is that right balance, striking that right balance between having the positive outlook, having a goal sheet, as well as understanding that you just have to move towards north, navigate your compass of life towards north.
That's right. Ishita, what do you feel like when we set up these plans like marketing strategy, and we set up certain tasks for to be done by ourselves as well as a team. Somewhere you feel that 2 3 tasks have not been done on time, or people are not taking that much interest to meet a deadline. It can have a negative impact in terms of like your behavior also, like in terms of putting more anger out there, to control the people you're working for. So what should you be your approach in such kind of, and which is I think a daily thing for a lot of marketers.
So I think first thing, yeah, and what I've seen in recent years that based on the corporate wellness reports that I have gone through, 80% of the companies, a lot of sales executives are under stress because
Yeah.
they leave the company, and especially when it comes to manufacturing industries, there is like 40% attrition rate approximately. The
Hmm.
reason being that people are leaving company because their managers were shouting at them, they were abusive. Now, managing stress is very important, and the right approach to this is actually learning the art of empathy and communicating well. The second is to journal things down and creating
Hmm.
vulnerability centers at workspace, uh,
Hmm.
which is really trending right now because corporate wellness is trending right now. So creating vulnerability centers where people can really navigate their feelings, express, places where people can cry out. So that's very important now, is what I feel, especially for sales executives.
That's right. Ishita, vulnerability center, I mean, many people not be aware of this. You could like elaborate on that.
So vulnerability center. So when I say vulnerability, it doesn't mean that crying and saying that everything is going haywire in my life. It's just not that. Vulnerability center is being authentic, being who you are, and expressing yourself the way you are. Maybe our hobbies are being expressed. People, the things that we felt. For example, me being a singer or a dancer, maybe felt that how can that be a helpful aspect as a marketer, but understanding those pointers which we felt were irrelevant and bringing that to workspace, creating that setting, and then giving people the tool to be themselves, and so that they express who they are. And just not that, they can cry out, they can play, having board game sessions. So creating those spaces for them where they can be vulnerably who they are. They don't have to fear that they are in a corporate world, there is politics, they have to be this way or that way. So I think being
That's right.
natural.
That's right. I think somewhere here, like say we have a weekly session where you are talking about, what you have done in the week and you're reporting. I think somewhere there can be a meeting where you have people, if you're not your bosses, shouldn't be part of it. Like you have your peers involved, and it's just kind of a chill out session where you're kind of sharing what you all have done, if anyone can help you out in a certain aspect, or some suggestions you have for the company. It's very open space within that. So yeah, this is a good idea if companies can kind of execute that. um, because a lot of the time that what happens is, the people, they are not able to express these things openly within the space because they are not given the outlet. So then a lot of bitching and all that happens, during a
True.
lunchtime or this thing, because they don't have the outlet. So it's a negatively use end of the day. So
Absolutely.
if it's used in a positive way, where this meeting is happening or not, I'm not saying every company has a capacity for, like having hiring a professional for that, or like having somebody dedicated, but at least if an interaction is happening, because I've noticed that that is also not happen in many companies. You just have, it's just work, 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 and that is added to the stress level when even when you say work from home, it became even more just work oriented. There was not any downtime happening at all. So yeah, that is something kind of interesting. Awesome. So, Ishita, any like you within your company or a company that you have worked for, you have kind of like work for in terms of externally, like you've been
Yeah,
kind
right.
of gone there for a session. Any kind of suggestions you given them in this space, and anything you want to share with respect to that?
Yeah, so there was this product that we were working on. One was VR for wellness, where
Hmm.
we created a gamified version of virtual reality where people, experience their breathing techniques and work through that. And
Hmm.
right now, I'm closely working on Joyful Spaces, where my intention is to create fun Fridays. So I've ensured that I help people go through rational emotional behavioral therapy where they can rationally shift their perspective and emotions about what they are
Hmm.
thinking. So counseling them, understanding their perspective. So when they are getting very negative about, why is this happening to them, then, ensuring that instead of projecting that reality, I help them change their perspective about it, which is a process.
That's right. Ishita, how do you like ensure that in many companies, a lot of people are more shy and introverted. So, how do we generally, and when you have a some kind of an event where there's a participation, you want to share something in front of, they would kind of back off from that. So, how do you ensure there's a smaller space where these kind of employees also they get more of a chance or more encouragement from the company to express?
I think one thing is understanding their strength points and then giving them platforms where they can talk in their group presentations. Like, if there is
Hmm.
a group of 5 to 6 people, creating small group sizes and then
Yeah.
giving them a platform where they can express. So that is where we can start from. That will help them build that confidence. Understanding first what is their strength point. Like, that's the key.
That's right. Very important for smaller groups. So if you have this thing, you can like select five, six people, and obviously the most shy person also, if there's such a small group and a few minutes into the discussion, they will get the confidence, they will start sharing. This is a different perspective you'll see about them. So yeah, this is a very kind
Yeah,
of a
and
good suggestion.
also when we see these shy people, they are very objective driven, which a
Hmm.
lot of people who speak a lot of jargons would not have. They will not be so objective about things, so critical about things. So that is again a strength that they have. They're very objective, they're very precise. So their research pedagogy is usually very good, very accurate. So that is where they excel.
Yes.
Yeah, so like when it comes to the method that we use while understanding things, so people are very objective driven when it comes to introverts. People who are
Hmm.
introverts are like very they know
Logic,
they
like
see things
very,
very precisely
yeah,
and they are
very
more
logic. What
logical
is
towards
the
things.
A to B kind of thing? Like not so
Yeah,
much on the
yeah, that's
behavior
right.
aspect and feelings and all that. Yeah, that's right. Yes, definitely. Yeah, this and plus they will have a different perspective if they are given that space to express, and which can be beneficial to the company.
True.
And in terms of they have a lot of strengths. Like if you compare even in cricketers, I think there was a session many years ago. They had done a communication specialist had come down, and they said there are all kinds of people within an organization. Everyone has their strengths, and you have to leverage it somewhere. People who are, shy, introverted, they might not get an opportunity, and then you're losing out on getting their strengths also from them for your organization. So like they give an example, like you have in Indian cricket team at that time, I think Rahul Dravid was there, and you'll have somebody like a Sehwag. So like their personalities are totally different, but if you see overall in the scheme of things, there's so much of value both have brought to an organization within that. So those kind of things. So I remember an interesting task they had done, that okay, who are these kind of people who are a little bit more expressive, who are this thing. There were different groups made, and everyone he talked about their strengths and weakness and how they can improve themselves to contribute more to society. Awesome. So, Ishita, if we can talk about the aspect of facing rejections and failures, and within marketing and sales fields, this is something which happens on a daily basis. And somewhere I feel you should kind of separate what you give and what you are personally. Like you cannot take those things personally. They are not rejecting you. They are rejecting at the time you're offering a service or a product. So it's easier said than done, but how do you handle yourself in this situation? Because I'm sure, like, even I started my career as a salesperson, and somewhere where you have to maybe directly go and sell, cold calling and all that. How do you kind of handle your behavior that these things are not taken to heart, and you can kind of put your best foot forward in your job?
I think the first thing that we need to understand is practicing rejections first. So, talking to those big shots or big companies, which you have never done, where you
Hmm.
think the failure is 100% possible. So, start with that, because
Hmm.
there is more acceptance, because you know you will be
True.
rejected. So that
True.
way you start accepting failures. You start accepting rejection. Once you have found that stillness in rejection, then the fruit starts, coming up. You start growing, and now you're more confident. You're okay with it. You're okay with people not listening. You're okay with it. But now you keep trying, because there is someone. So that's one thing which I feel is a very good strategy.
That's right. In this is also an interesting point, and which all like salespersons can use is, firstly, your product, know it inside out and make a proposition of it, or a elevator pitch, right? That obviously you are also
Yeah.
convinced if you are, say, part of the TG who is a prospective buyer. So when you do that, and create a mindset where it's like I'm offering something of value. I'm not one of the thousand people offering the same thing, right? Because there was obviously an experiment done, very interesting, where there was a guy. He was offering like half a kilo of gold or something like that on the streets, right? There was an experiment, so he's offering, I'm giving. So no one believed it, right? Everybody's like, how is this some scam? Like, how can you kind of offer this openly? And if you see his mood, he was chilled out. Okay, you don't want. Okay, next guy, like this and all. So it was like, the secret was, if you're offering something of really high value, you're not concerned if someone, the another person will definitely take it, right? So that mindset is there, that if not, because I'm offering something of value, like one person doesn't want it, the other person
The
will
other
definitely.
person will.
And throughout, like, so he would have, I think the experiment was, he got like at least 200 rejections, and maybe I think one or two people then accepted also. And his mood was the same the whole day. Like, it was a positive mindset that he had. So this is something kind of interesting for salesperson. So Ishita, what is your
I,
opinion on that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is actually a very good strategy, and value-driven approach is of high demand. Like, I mean, that's the only thing that a marketer has and should focus on. Actually, could focus on. So,
That That's right. And if you see this, like, when we all
yeah,
have been, like, obviously offered some product or the other, services mostly, obviously, because that is more direct kind of selling.
hmm,
We observe that guy who is having a lot of energy and a positivity in him about his product. It could be like, you would have talked and outright, not taken interest of 10 people pitching you the same kind of product or service. and you take an interest somewhere. You feel there is a sense of confidence and security in what he's doing. He's not
Absolutely.
kind of somewhere that insecurity becomes very salesy, and then you kind of pull back. You're not kind of trusting that person. So that's why they say, if you make yourself a certain level, then you attract things. Like, so it's the same, like where you are not finding yourself like I'm too kind of desperate in that, uh, and kind of work on that process of being of value to person useful, and then they will take direct interest within you.
So that brings me to one more important point. Like, when it comes to, like, I'm a voiceover artist. So one thing that I have really learned is that your smile, it also has a texture. It adds a texture to your voice because you're talking
Hmm.
about positive outlook. So, that should be a part of training. And, first week of induction for salespeople should be people randomly calling them and then smiling and talking. So that
Hmm.
is what can be practiced in the induction process of people itself. That is
Awesome, awesome. So that's interesting. And I think obviously the main thing for a voiceover artist is, say you are saying a particular dialogue or lines, the emotion, that is the main thing, right? That is what differentiate then person just reading out a line and feeling it, because through the voice only you're
absolutely.
feeling that when a person is kind of hearing that particular dialogue, if it's dubbed or whatever. So yeah, this is a kind of interesting. So if you kind of are training yourself, that has in so many other aspects of your life that has a great impact.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So Ishita, we'll come to the part of time management, which is so important. I feel the amount of mini tasks, mini decisions have increased hundredfold over the last few years, because you're using so many amount of tools, the expectation of a lot of content, and like different kind of events or whatever you're doing. It's all just the volumes have increased because of competitive space. You have to be consistent in that. You have to deliver when the it's expected from the client and all. So how do you kind of manage your time? Like, what are the key things for you when you are an important decision maker in a company? You have a lot of mini decisions over the day, a lot of important decisions. How do you kind of manage your day?
I think creating a joy sheet is what I have implemented at my workspace. So this is what I have proposed. Like joy sheet is basically where you list down the task in 369 format based on the elements of joy. So you write down how joyful can your day be as a marketer, and then you put down your task list based on that in a format of 369. Three are the immediate tasks, and yet the things you like, then comes the next six, and then comes the next nine. So completing that list is one thing that I have cultivated.
That's right. 369. So, in terms of Ishita, like you said, 3 6. So, which are three other harder tasks? If you could like re go through that a little bit more detail.
Yeah, so three are the first three priorities of highest priorities.
Hmm.
Then
So like
six other.
let's take some examples. So okay, so first thing, marketer, he will see ki, okay, how was my campaign done yesterday, right? That is the first priority. Okay, that I have to check that those are the statistics in front of me. So that is okay. That's the
Right.
important task, right?
Now, understanding that what you enjoy also. For example, I'm more productive at the from the time 5 to 7 p.m.
Hmm.
and not during afternoons. So,
Hmm.
understanding what tasks to schedule at what time duration based on my
Hmm.
energy level, which is not considered a lot of time. We would keep tasks based on our urgency level, but we get exhausted because there is so much to
Hmm.
do. So understanding that at what energy level you can give your best. If I'm creative, then maybe I can be creative in morning hours or in the evening hours, but not in the afternoon hours. So
Hmm.
understanding where to put and plot that is one
Hmm.
thing, because marketers usually get that space to navigate their energy when it comes to their creative abilities.
Hmm.
Digital marketers, and when it comes to the marcom industry, we get a lot of time for that. So understanding where to put that based on what you enjoy, and what you don't enjoy, and then navigating your energy.
That's right. So, marketer can see that uh, during a certain time of the day, he feels, more creative juices flowing. So, mark
Yeah,
that out. Say like you are ideating on your tagline for the campaign, or you are navigating
yeah,
like certain, say, a script you're making for the video tutorial or something like that, where more thinking and that happens like in terms of you getting ideas and then kind of executing it in terms of your script or creative brief or something. So yeah, schedule those at that time, because what will happen if you don't do that, then at a time where you are not feeling that creative, it's not happening internally for you, that hour is wasted. And it has happened also where 1 hour I'm just okay, it's like a writer's block, like you are thinking, okay, what is good this thing. So whatever
yeah,
you do, then it's, you're not going forward with that.
right.
That's right. So okay, 3 6, now the 9 part.
The nine are all the other tasks which you would like to do and which you enjoy, but you have been postponing. So, writing all those down. So, that way, anything that can be scheduled for the next day, you know that these are listed. So, at least one keeps going upward.
Okay, okay. So you're saying the 9 is still the maximum, like those tasks which you're not kind of enjoying and you have to still
Yeah.
get them through. Okay,
also
okay.
also the things that you enjoy but you have been postponing for a while, so
Hmm.
and putting it in a joyous list and not telling, because I'm so bored with the idea of to-do list, because
Hmm.
we are talking about to-do list. It's good to tick mark because that really motivates, but at
Hmm.
the same time I feel understanding your energy and channelizing it right way is very important.
That's right. I think this can be used in the like work management tool, like for example, Todoist, which I use. So where you have different color marking as per like we made a division of all the tasks that can be done. I think a way to move forward, we have to work a lot with technology. So if we have these tools where you can mark out these things and showcase also within your calendar a certain amount of time for a particular task and try to stick with it, then that will kind of help you with your management. During the day, definitely, a lot of marketers would face it that where you have to execute a thing urgently, right? So if you kept a particular task for an hour and say a meeting came up or there was some other, important work. So how do you kind of, what would be your suggestion to work around that? So I've set up those 2 hours, but those 2 hours have gone away in something, say, urgent at that time.
Yeah. So, firstly, when something urgent comes, again coming back to the compass idea, you have to
Hmm.
sail towards north. So,
Hmm.
understanding that this is a highest priority. Firstly, of course, when that task has come up, you have to ensure that it has to be done. There is no other option that you have.
Hmm.
But now, being very approaching it this way, that writing the sub points towards it, because a lot of times we don't have preparedness for the meetings because it has just come. So just using that 5 minutes or 2 minutes that you get in the form of minutes of meeting, and understanding what are the deliverables that you have to give, so that becomes a fast track approach to manage your time efficiently, where what you say adds more value.
That's right. And I feel on a day wise, you have to have certain amount of adherence to it. Like obviously something could come up, but that shouldn't be an excuse to okay, I put it to the next day. Somewhere or the other, on a daily basis, there could be a day maybe okay that 1 hour you've lost or that task can be done, but it shouldn't then convert into excuses that okay, no, no, from tomorrow I'll do it 100%. Like somewhere when that happens, then those excuses start happening in your mind and you say ha chalo, let's take the easier, because obvious as a person you'll your mindset is that you'll always take a easier option unless you push yourself. So I don't think you should go in that space. So we all want to push also, definitely something where you have a motivational thing, a goal in front of you, and you kind of have a, I feel even a kind of some, like when you do meditation or some chant where you are kind of saying that, okay, these are the tasks and I am going towards a goal, right? That's my vision. So if I don't do this, my vision will not be something. An urgency create within yourself to execute your task. Awesome. So Ishita, in terms of maintaining your motivation, one, I think this aspect I just now talked about, any other techniques of maintaining motivation during the times where you will not be, like, you just see sometimes motivation is something like, you just see a motivational video or you talk to somebody who is kind of inspirational, but then that is not going to be happening all the time. So how do you approach your mindset where there's a constant sense of motivation to achieve things?
So I think it's something that you have to create as a habit in workspaces.
Hmm.
So even if you can just have 15 to 20 minutes time slot at workspaces every day, it
Hmm.
cannot happen once a month. People giving a lecture on mindfulness, it will not help or change their perspective. So, creating a habit is what
Hmm.
I recommend. So, when people are taking sessions, or, when we conduct, what we have started in our organization is journaling. So, we have given people journals where they write what they are grateful for, what what they enjoy doing, what was good that happened today, and what they feel blessed about. So that way, we start channelizing that, yeah, something good is still happening in my life, even if this is not working in my
Hmm.
favor. Something is working.
That's right. I think now it's kind of one negative thing that happens, that when something doesn't go your way, somewhere your senses are kind of you feel overwhelmed. Ki, okay, this, you get into a negative kind of a tunnel thinking. So this is, I feel it's a good idea. Like if you are into kind of a journaling or you write your feelings or some kind of expression is happening, there can be different ways for different people, but you definitely, when you have noted somewhere that you what you are grateful for, then it kind of has a positive aspect for you, and then your mood can change around that. So yeah, definitely this is something which can use, because I feel somewhere or the other with social media and people's judgments, and today you have this fear of missing out and 100 other things, you can kind of get into a negative spiral in terms of thinking also. So somewhere, how do you kind of detach yourself? Where that's why I feel somewhere or the other, as people, we kind of have to have a thing where we can't have, we should live on our certain terms that we have kept, not rely and get distracted what other person's success or what that person is not doing. I'm doing, putting up some kind of thing that I'm superior than someone or inferior. So yeah, I think these are kind of good techniques. As I said, mindset is something like, even Ishita said that it's with practice that you kind of get better, and has to be in that space. We
Absolutely. Even the
sometimes without,
nutrition
yeah,
level.
that's
Uh,
right.
yeah. So
No,
the
no, you can go
nutrition
on.
level plays a very important role. Like, when it comes to people not focusing on their diet, or, overeating or not eating much. So I think these are very small aspects, but, if once added, they can really bring that balance in the way they perceive things and their mindset also. Because you don't know how food affects you, but it plays a very
Yeah.
important role.
Yes, Ishita, this is a very interesting thing where when you're having these snacks, like say 11 o'clock in many offices, you'll go outside. I don't want to go, like many people are smoking and all that. Also, that's another thing. But they will have your like a vada pav, samosa, and then something or any other unhealthy thing, and also at 5. And actually those are times where there's a certain amount of stress also in your work and all, and you are kind of peaking that stress level with unhealthy food and all. So what is your
Yeah.
opinion on that, like also managing that, or in terms of like how do you kind of, your eating techniques can be throughout the day for managing stress?
So I think one is definitely ensuring that there is a tag for competitions more on health.
Hmm.
People competing on different health aspects, like
Hmm.
for example, drinking more water. So, who is drinking the right, accurate water with which their body needs? And
Hmm.
except for that, there are many competitions that a lot of companies, now voluntarily have started taking actions towards. Like, they have a lot of health related, how many hours you have walked, challenges that they have incorporated, which
Yeah,
can definitely
like
be,
if you have a like a fitness watch kind of thing, so you can calculate, like if everyone, I think these kind of things have become more affordable,
yeah,
the
the
watches and
trackers.
all. So
Yeah.
tracker may you have a competition, so you give everyone. If they don't have their own, then you just give them kind of a tracker. So our competition is in the next like 7 days. Who will have the maximum kilometers covered or something like that. So that's
Also, if
gamifying the thing, which is yeah.
True. And also, like after every 40 minutes, if there is a music that is being played, where people just have to stand up, they don't have to do anything, but there's a music that revolves around everywhere. So that can also create a therapeutic environment. Like we all now, music is a very good therapy instrument being used in a lot of alternative healing. So one thing that I have observed when you said about vada pav, I think one thing why do we have sweet tooth? We have sweet tooth, like it means that is one aspect that is missing in our diet. So
Hmm.
if I really am feeling the strong nudge to eat more chocolates or pastries, that means that what is less in my body is actually eating more dry fruits. So
Hmm.
substituting
So
chocolates
it's
and pastries
creating
with
a
dry fruits,
craving basically.
yeah,
Uh,
that lack
and
in
like a
your diet
spicy
is
also,
creating a craving.
spicy का भी बहुत लोग का like होता है, that I think
हाँ.
वो ज़्यादा होता है, so it's like you feel that is less in you and then you have that spicy craving also.
तो उसी को चैनल करना इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, लाइक अंडरस्टैंडिंग कि वो क्रेविंग कहाँ से आ रहा है, एंड इट्स ऑलवेज दैट whether
Hmm.
you whether it comes to you shifting to sprouts because you feel, why are you feeling that need itself, is
Hmm.
because there is a need in body. And the other is when people, it's only possible when we start creating that competition for this, because competition is just a age old educational technique that has been implanted in humans, that
Hmm.
we have to we have to win, that winning attitude somewhere is in us. So
Hmm.
creating that idea that being healthy is the ideal thing to do is very important in organization, because that affects your mindset, that affects the way you see life, the way you see yourself. So healthy body and movement, after 30-40 minutes having that movement in body, and lifting those energy up that you have, because we are sitting at one place, so that movement is very important. And for people who
Hmm.
travel a lot, again, uh, being still is more important, because then they don't know how to be still. So connecting to nature
Hmm.
is important in a lot of ways.
That's right. And what happens, I have been in sales also. So even though you are traveling, you are walking and all, you are having junk food. So even if you burned
Yeah,
like 100 more calories with one some junk food item, you have added 300, 400 calories of more fats and sugars or whatever. So yeah, I mean, when we're talking about mindset here, we're looking at mindfulness when you are
absolutely.
eating and respecting what's going in your body,
Yeah,
because somewhere if we take it as
it's very
a
important here.
yeah, that's right, entertainment or relaxation in eating, like what is the general thing, like you feeling full
Hmm.
day stress work, I've just given my report, and it's been like a 1 hour meeting and grilling and everything, I'm like chalo yaar abhi McDonald's जाके burger और ये सब खा लो, and also that is the thing where it's a reward system also in the mindset, which shouldn't be, I think, where we have to kind of separate that, and you have to have your own techniques, what motivates you and all, this is a thing where you can
And
have the
that comes with awareness, that comes with awareness of your body, like you need to start asking your body that what is that a body really needs? Because a lot of times we are just eating because of mood. So ask yourself that what mood am I in when I'm
Hmm.
eating? Because that creates a
Hmm.
lot of temptations. Like when I'm angry or stressed, or when I'm lazy, lethargic, tired, I would naturally want to have more junk food. So,
Hmm.
understanding what emotional frequency are you in and what you are eating. Because people who have gained a lot of weight or, who start eating, so there is more stress eating. Either people
Hmm.
deprive themselves of food or they overeat. Why? Because in anger, in frustration, what's easier is to get the taste of it to uplift and get the dopamine rush for that
Hmm.
moment. So that feels good, but is it
Th-
really helping you? So that's the question. Creating that, question in your mind is very important.
That's right. And it here is the like you're giving example where a person is kind of feeling low or something, and then he's kind of replacing that with like food,
Hmm.
stuffing in things like which are not healthy. Even like a reward system has become eating and drinking. So I mean, somewhere or the other, it's
True.
just you're consuming in all kind of circumstances. So definitely in bigger cities, the thing is that it's an overeating kind of a lot is happening because say you need 2000 calories a day maintenance. So you are if you analyze, you are getting like 4000 calories double. So kind of somewhere you have to look at ways where you don't eat also, right? There are certain parts like everything there has
True.
to be a reward system. And you'll not believe this, the way I'm sure everyone kind of experiences there, the way the marketing industry and in general when we see fast food and everything, the temptations are enormous, right? What they have not been earlier.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, you have to control. This is like a almost like a virtual war that is happening on your senses there,
True.
where
True.
everything is enabling you that I'm going to eat unhealthy. And we all have noticed how the industry, like whether you are talking about, burgers and all these things you are eating, any fast foods, they are becoming cheaper. And there are brands and all like you see, and that is only available. Like even people with lesser resources can are having those things, and they are also becoming more unhealthy. Earlier, it used to not. They used to a person with limited resources generally was eating healthier, but
Healthy
now
food.
these things,
Now it's
yes, yes,
unhealthy. Yeah.
yeah. So somewhere a consciousness is there in our education system, as well as if you join a company where you incentivize certain health-based things. Health insurance can be, better, higher for a more healthier person.
Yeah.
So these kind of incentives you take place because if not, think
Absolutely.
think about yourself, think about your family, right? In this
Right.
whole, if that is more motivational for you, right? Then who are you
So
working
we
for, right?
introduced
Yeah.
this is one concept that we introduced. Like we brought potluck and personality.
Hmm.
So basically, initially people used to bring samosa or all other aspects, but when they started defining their personality, that how samosa they are, so they started changing to healthy eating.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
one thing that we implemented, and it actually worked in favor. Like this was a very subconscious level working that we did for personality basis, where people never thought that we could think that way. So yeah, so this really worked.
That's right.
Personality and potluck.
That's right. Like very few people will say that the food item that reminds me of myself is a vada pav. So they will come up with maybe healthier food options or something like
Yeah,
that. Where
exactly. Exactly. Because we
that's it.
always want to be perceived good, good enough. So that's
Yes,
it.
yes. Yeah, I mean, when you correlate to yourself, like very few people will, unless it's a like for humorous thing that you'll say something like, I correlate myself
I'm a
with
samosa.
samosa or something. So yeah, that is a good way. But if you don't correlate, then kind of why are you constantly eating that only, and you will then
Yes.
look like a vada pav. No, but in terms of yeah, definitely, but definitely on a serious note, things definitely we look at it. It is harder. So step by step plan, kind of you have where you are reducing your calories or something like, because it's not going to happen. How much of a motivation you see, body also takes time to adapt and all, and the mind and all.
True.
So few like steps at a time, you go, like people who've had definitely been therapists or this, where you have a vice of smoking or there's some tobacco, whatever. It's a step by step. I don't think within a month somebody is able to leave a habit or really reduce. It is like you kind of
Absolutely.
reducing
It's a
it.
process.
It's a kind of a process within the same. Awesome. So Ishita, in terms of the decision making aspect, as we said, like the digital world, which is kind of 5 to 6 years. When I talk digital world, is like everything you're interacting with, well, like say virtually a machine only, where you have your phone, your laptop, and all. You're managing your work, you're managing other people, you're having meetings, interactions, and all. A lot of decision making has increased. Small decisions, big decisions, whatever. So, how do you kind of optimize this process where your energies, your faculties also are not, getting depleted, or you're not putting your energy into certain things which you don't want to. It's not that important. So, how do you kind of manage all this?
I think first thing is that there should be, even down the hierarchy, people should be given that a little authority is what I feel. When they are given that leadership opportunity, or where they are given, where they become scope for their ideas, that would cultivate a lot of new strategy. One thing which I feel would enhance the decision making aspect. And when it comes to
Still cutting? Okay. No issues.
I'll break.
Okay. I think, yeah, I think you can retake that thing only. I'll give you the cue. I think you can retake the whole thing.
From a significant aspect.
Boy, full, like I asked the question of decision making and then you start off that.
You will ask the question?
No, no, I've asked, so I'll just give you the cue. You can then start. So then I'll cut off all this part and then the part from where you started speaking. Okay. Awesome. So, yes.
So I feel that decision making, like it is definitely a significant aspect when it comes to clear and confident strategy making. It is very important to firstly plan and understand your priorities. The other is when it comes to giving power. So instead of taking the power and control in your hands, down the hierarchy, being, the spoke for people, allowing those ideas to come up. So having more Shark Tank sessions in your workspaces, having more, uh, having more sessions where people can come up with their ideas. And then that would bring a significant change in the way strategies and campaigns are being lifted. Because when it comes to Coca-Cola, a lot of such ideas were discussed during the presentations where people were just enjoying their time. So I think once we start educating people and giving them opportunities, the decision making process would improve. The other being, always understanding that when you are conducting a meeting or and having a discussion, always have a clear end to end goal and time slot for it. It cannot be stretched for 5 hours or 4 hours. You have to have a specific time slot dedicated towards things. Because what happens is we want something and we go somewhere else. So
Hmm.
that happens with a lot of leaders, and that's where decision making loops happen. Other thing is, usually when people are hired, there's a lot of complementary settings that I've seen in the stakeholders. So detox your ego. Yeah, so I feel it is very important that the leaders should detox their ego and understand that they are complementary in nature. So they have to come somewhere in alignment. So that's where the strategic decisions are delayed a lot of times. So that is where I feel few changes where I feel the process can be more smooth.
That's right. I feel in this, the aspect is managing your own than with others, the decision making, because I feel, the way the work is structured nowadays, there's a lot of time where you are only managing. It's like very less of meetings per se. It's more managing your time, and also um, decision making. Like when I think earlier aspect in the podcast you had covered about the 369. Somewhere is that how
Yeah,
you make the decisions about those tasks. That is, I think, the most important, because
right.
the rest of the decisions, okay, if you are in a position where you have a huge team, and you have, a decision making in terms of how much work you have to give them, what is the targets and all that, that kind of
And
yeah.
that's a very important point. Like, understanding what are our priorities. Like that's where we
Hmm.
get jumbled up the most. Like, what is my priority right now? So, understanding what, like, that is also a very key decision making process that we need to enter.
That's right. Yeah, like sometimes I feel somewhere we our energies are kind of diverted in things which it shouldn't. Like where, say, you don't have a good meeting, or the client interaction has not gone well, or deal didn't close. We all have observed that maybe the whole day has not been that productive, right? Because you have kind of that thinking, like you have been too much invested in those thoughts only throughout the day, where you are feeling low that something didn't happen. So I think even then the decision making is what you decide to give energy to, right? I don't think we
Hmm.
should give so much energy into anything. That's where detachment comes, like where everything, and that's why even like in a business deal, you put too much pressure on yourself, even in an interview or something.
Yeah.
And somewhere you notice where you didn't do that, like you were like just prepared well and you went with the flow, you perform better. So yeah, I think that's where I think the decisions also can come in, where your energy, where you put you kind of have, and I think that has to be done conscious. Many people go through their whole corporate life and they won't be able to do that, and that's why they don't see that level of growth in general. Forget about in the corporate ladder or anything, like even for within themselves, like you feel you're the same person, you not learn from your experiences. So yeah, I think this is something which people can look at
And
and take it.
being
Yes.
a experimental design to just what you said is that again going back to the point that I said earlier, that be the compass. Always know that you have to strive towards north, and there is always a north. You
Hmm.
don't have to go south. You have to travel towards north, and you just have to flow, because sometimes, because I have experimented with my career choices a lot. So with that, one thing that I have realized over the time is that one thing that stayed unique about me was the words that I used, and the empathy as a source that I had. So I feel that, sometimes dots just connect. You don't have to make, you don't have to consciously make a choice to make a decision, but rather
Hmm.
understand sometimes you have to just be like water and keep flowing.
That's right. If you are constantly thinking about your next step, then when will that step come, right? Like you,
Yeah.
if
Then
you
you
are
are not
doing
in now also.
That's right. If you are constantly that the same, coming back to the example I gave, you are kind of feeling low because that deal didn't go through or something didn't happen, and your energy is not there in the next steps, right? So that
Absolutely.
is where your analysis of your behavior is really important. So Ishita, also an important thing where um, don't you think, like when you are asking like a certain thing uh, happens to you which is not generally favorable, so you should ask the question how, then why is like, why did this happen to me, right? Why is this happening to me only, then to like how, okay, this has happened, how should I learn from this, how should I now do things that things kind of go north for me. So what is your opinion on that?
Also, what? I feel
Yeah.
what should be the question, the first question that you ask, like what is it trying to teach you? Because there is always something to learn. And
Hmm.
how is going to be the next step after you
Hmm.
define the what of it, that the learning, the essence that this event happened. There is always a learning towards everything. And
Hmm.
then what are the next pointers is how you would define it. That these are the few solution driven steps that I would take. So this was the problem. I took the deal. It took this many hours for me. I had this conversation for 30 minutes. and
Hmm.
I could complete this in the first 30 seconds. I could have pitched this product this way.
Hmm.
And you said you write those solution driven steps in the how as well, and that way you cultivate change. So you have to fail many times to actually win once, and that's very
That's it.
important.
And that is with your behavior. If you're constantly so sensitive to failure and you constantly then you are feeling low, you are not going to have the courage for doing things. So definitely where you ask
And
also what, yes.
yeah, celebrating failures, like to what you said, like I feel it's very important to celebrate those failures and have a resume of failures. If given an opportunity as a HR professional, I would like to introduce a resume of failures instead of a resume of what you have done, because that shows how many times you have taken risk in life and still you are going on.
Hmm.
So I think
That's right.
that's very important.
That's right. This is in a mindset. Like there was a discussion having between some cricketing experts. So you had a team which was kind of on the upswing, all positive. They were doing well, and a kind of a mindset was created, and a team which was kind of like not coming out of a hole. They were losing a lot or whatever. So like when a bowler is bowling from that positive aspect, he will say miss the bats. We'll say, okay, I missed it now. I'll get you next time. And compared to the losing mindset, they are like, he misses the ball. Oh man, again I've missed it. Yeah, when am I going to actually get a wicket? So this is the way. It's the same thing has happened. It's how you're taking it, and then the energies will go, and then accordingly you'll get the results. So who will get the good results in such a scenario. So definitely
Yeah, and
lot to learn
sports
from. Yeah.
psychology has evolved over the time, and it's very important in terms of the lessons it brings in. Like,
Hmm.
especially when you said about the cricketers. So, there are cricketers who, for example, Dhoni. So he would take a minute more before so a second more. So
Hmm.
usually what cricketers take plus 1 second more to ensure that his ball goes in the right direction. So I think
Hmm.
that pause that you take, that pause, that
Hmm.
breath that you take before making that decision is so very important.
That's
And
why when he before he
cricketers,
used to take any delivery, he's like adjusting everything. Maybe at that time
yes,
he is thinking about and clarity of thought
A- absolutely. Like Sachin Tendulkar would ensure that he has his earphones plugged in before the session, so that
before going into
he's
bed.
just, yeah. So he would ensure that he's out. He just performs out of the box. He's not there
Hmm.
the way others are. So keeping that also in mind, that you don't allow a lot of perspectives to you know create decisions for you instead of you
That's
making
right.
your own decision.
That's right. That's where the you're cutting off from external aspects, which is kind of natural because human being is more or less tuned into like this survival than being thriving. So
Absolutely.
you can't somewhere you have to, though it'll come naturally to you where they say the negative, like you'll get 10 praises and one not so good thing, you'll remember the not so, somewhere you have to
Not so good thing. Yes.
change your behavior so that it is for your benefit only, and how you kind of
And as I
contribute more to
said,
society. Yeah.
what you said comes with habit. Like, it doesn't happen overnight. If I am positive today and negative tomorrow, it's a channel. I have to
Hmm.
constantly keep performing. I have to constantly create that mindset. It's very important that organization don't have yoga sessions once a month, but they rather have something that brings that mindfulness practice every day. Even if you do for
Hmm.
10 minutes, but make it a practice that they count their breaths. Make a
Yes, yes.
conscious effort.
Yes, and I think they should do that. I've observed in so many companies, their employees, they so much of time is like a waste also, in certain interactions or like breaks and all. I mean, somewhere if you have that small session once a week, like a half an hour or something in a small group, it's not like everyone has to come. Also there again you get left out. Like you have these small groups, say 5 or 6 guy, and then you're having a session with them, and then maybe an HR is doing it or someone in the team. So yeah, I think this can have great benefits. That's why I feel even human resource aspect beyond somewhere I've observed in smaller companies just about recruitment, but there are I think many other aspects they have to work on for actually increasing productive employees, and
Absolutely.
also their mode in terms of retaining the good employees basically.
Yeah. I feel L&D and wellness are age of the like they are the need of the hour, and we all really need this because mindsets actually we actually scatter our energy a lot. So we
Hmm.
need something within the organization that brings all that energy towards one goal that directs us. Because there are very less people who talk their values, who live their
Hmm.
values. There
Hmm.
are a lot of times where companies have talked about equal employment opportunities and acts, but they have not valued their own values itself, their own
Hmm.
core ethics. I think these are very important and crucial, and companies should start practicing.
Awesome. So, Ishita, in terms of in corporate profile, marketing profession is more creative. You'll have your design team, you'll have your UI UX. A lot of different kind of marketing roles are there, even in different like digital marketing agencies per se. So the constant thing is coming up, with new ideas which connect with your TG, ideas which are relevant, which are relatable. So, and this is something which, as any kind of a creative artistic process, it doesn't land on you. Maybe you have to have a process wherein these ideas are kind of flowing through a certain point in a day. It could be a certain environment you are in. So, what is your advice in terms of that? For how do you kind of get more creative? Any kind of activities, exercises that you can do that would hold you in good stead?
Yeah, so I feel creativity is something which we need in all aspects. Like, I would not just limit it to marketing. However, when it comes to marketers, it's of utmost importance when you come up with new ideas and bring new elements, because
Hmm.
that is going to grasp a lot of attention and reach. So I feel that one thing that we can really keep in mind is creating innovative tags by having mind maps and bringing people together where they discuss ideas, which is a good way of cultivating ideas. Other, which I said earlier, that taking things from their co-curricular activities, because hobbies play a very important role. Like, for example, I remember one of these advertisements of IPLs where they are playing tabla, and they're talking about breakups, where they're talking about a brand and bonding. So when they are talking about that brand and bond type, basically, they are actually that idea came up because of someone going through a breakup and someone actually knowing a musical element, someone being
Hmm.
good with music. So
Hmm.
some things, some very creative ideas can come up in rooms when you're not thinking about anything. Other thing that we need to practice is not doing anything for a while. Like, giving
Hmm.
that free space and time in a day where you're not doing anything, where you're not thinking, where you're defocusing. And that is where that is where your mind brings back all your energy to a center, and you now have more to share. And doodling, doing those little initiatives where people can stand for themselves, having fun Friday meets, and creating informal discussions for people. And I think there should always be a idea tab and tag in all our there should be a group where people just put their ideas out, and the best ideas are rewarded. And people should, on a rotational shift, be given an opportunity where they speak up. So, and I think everybody should host Shark Tanks. So we all should host Shark Tanks in our own workspaces, because that really creates great innovative plant. It's not only innovative ideation, but it's also plant, because then you have a
Hmm.
proper map, canvas to it. So I feel these are few
So
things
you're
that
in the
have worked.
Shark Tank. concept is that you're saying you're pitching ideas. Obviously, there you are pitching the
Yeah,
business for investment. Here you are pitching different ideas that you have in your department, say.
right. So I remember I was given this first task as case study, which was to understand politics. It was basically business politics, and I remember the case study was मेरे भैंस को डंडा किसने मारा. So it was this jargon that I was given, and this was a research paper that I wrote on. मेरे भैंस को डंडा किसने मारा. So it was all about the three political aspects in company. So how we decipher and how we come up with it. It was just a very small thing which was given as a case to me, but then I made it huge. I shared it in my Accelerate group. I made it a big initiative. So that worked in my favor. So, it's about giving people something unique also. Like
Hmm.
I was very much, it was very
But
fun.
the
It was very much
concept
fun.
of that was what exactly?
So, मेरी भैंस को डंडा किसने मारा, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was basically understanding. It was basically politics. It was understanding that when how people would try to, even if you're doing good work in a corporate, but people will always they'll keep hitting you on back, and they will
Hmm.
keep giving you perspective. So it was all in the song. The
Hmm.
words were taken from songs. So we did
Hmm.
a proper research survey for it, where we got to
Hmm.
know that one is that there is a lot of politics when there are complementary elements in company, and people
Hmm.
want to push their idea. They want to have more control. So
Hmm.
to reduce the control, the level of control, people freaking out that they want more power. So that power
Hmm.
focus approach is one thing that is. Then the other was digital marketing, like how we end up putting ourselves in more conflict and confusion and paradoxes because we are in digital world. So these are few things that we came up with as a conclusion because we were given an open canvas, and I connected to all HR professionals. Yeah, this was the idea.
That's right. I feel in terms of the office politics aspect of it, I feel the people who are in those leadership positions, somewhere they have to have a way, a strategy also with deal, because there are many employees backbiting they do,
Absolutely.
or they will snitch where they are complaining. So somewhere or the other, this kind of behavior should not be encouraged and all, even if it is something where you are saying, okay, that person is doing something to harm the company or whatever. That is always a perception. I'm not, unless it's something is outright, like where you are stealing an idea or giving it to a competitor or something. So yeah, I think the management has to be strong, because many people they get into the, and there is a lot of waste of energies within that, and people then you're justifying. Then it's something like when you know that person is kind of against you, you feel then enmity doesn't, in your work also it comes out, right? That positive aspect is not like it's always a one upsmanship or proving a point. So yeah, that is something where the HR CEO, somewhere you kind of have to have it in your work process where those things are not encouraged. You have to lay down it specifically, obviously, with any policy,
Yeah.
and kind of obviously it cannot be in stone. Like there is all perceptions around things, but somewhere that approach should be there. I think we all have worked. We have noticed
Absolutely.
certain people, employees, and all. Maybe even not consciously, we are also getting into those kind of gossips or putting down a certain employee, or kind of distancing from certain person, maybe the background or whatever. So it should be kind of inclusive. I've noticed
I
this where
I think
I've been in
here
any.
we should have a.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
The company, I'm sure you all have been where you interacted with, forget a proper company, a business also, a shop front and all. Somewhere there is a positive feeling within that when you enter, like where
Yeah,
your employees, they are feeling valued, and that happiness is within them.
absolutely.
I have felt this. It's up to listeners. You can also judge that you have also felt that, and hasn't it had
True.
a positive? Aren't you kind of somewhere or the other? It's led you to the decision of being a regular customer, for example. So yeah, that is an important thing to learn.
And when you say that, I think one thing that is very important is again you giving your employees that space, the vulnerability space. So we did something called as transaction matrix, where where the person who is the employee and the employer both have to get into a discussion, so they can ask anything to each other, and then there is a call for action. So there is a table of discussion that we created. The people come and discuss whatever problems they have. Like, I have a problem with you, I'll come and say that, hey, these are the problems. I can call anyone on any
Hmm.
designation and say, I have a
Hmm.
problem with this. So please ensure you don't do this. For example, I have a problem with people back mouthing or back bitching about anybody when by
Hmm.
eating. So I
Hmm.
ensure that I say this one person that you cannot answer calls during lunch hour. So
Hmm.
that was a call for action that we made for us, that
Hmm.
for the 30 minutes she cannot have any calls. So that way we
That's
came up
right.
with a lot of call for actions and a lot of change happened.
That's right. Yeah, I've noticed, see, generally when in a workspace, what is the most common thing is that a person who's your boss or is an authority, you generally, don't get into a conversation where it can challenge a certain system
Yeah.
or a behavior, whatever, because you are a little bit, like, what's my position in this company and
Yeah.
those kind of things. So somewhere it has to come from the management because nobody's going to risk their their employeeship or whatever on those things. So if there is a thing like, there is, like, say for example, where
Yeah.
this is
Just
done in
a
large,
safe space.
that's right, larger companies, I've seen there's certain thing where you have a boss feedback. Like there is certain questionnaire that is asked, and that is kept hidden, like who is answering it or not. So like say
Yeah. We do
there are
that
10.
in OD.
Yes, yes. 10 employees are reporting to one. So somewhere a report will come that on different kind of things obviously is judged on. And you come to know the boss obviously what is the relation between the boss and employee and boss, that these all it matters. Can't be one way where a boss can get away with anything in terms of just like justifying with, pressure is on me also, so I have to put it on them or that way. So there are techniques. I think going forward there will be more innovations in space, but there's something to kind of think about for the HRs and all the CEOs and all out there.
Yeah,
Awesome.
true.
So Ishita, we talked about decision making. So because of this, I think there's a lot of a burnout because a lot of things you are handling. I'll give you an example. A marketing person or say person, a social media manager, is handling various social media accounts, posting on time, reacting to certain comments, what is trending. It is like all the time you are on social media. Like they say you shouldn't be on social media, but someone's job is that. So how do you handle, because there'll be a burnout, right? If you are that much tuned in for a long period of time every day. So how do you kind of detach and like so that there's no burnout happening in a long term?
Yeah, I think there is a right balance which you really need to make. Social media is of great help, but you need to have that detox period every day. So you have to keep that time in check. Right now, we have a lot of channels, way of channeling our comments time and everything that we can automate a lot of things, posts and
Hmm.
all of things. So one thing that is very important is taking breaks to move your body a bit,
Hmm.
and to take that pauses after regular intervals, like after every hour having that little pause. That's very, very important, because if you don't take that, being a marketer specifically, because you have to defocus, that's when
Hmm.
your ideas start coming, they are more natural. So that is one thing. The other thing when it comes to burnout and stress
Hmm.
is that we all are going through that a lot, because companies are having a lot of pressure when it comes to what they want to achieve and where they want to go. But and marketers are always in that loop. Now, to really maximize our potential and put that in right perspective is to create, give that free will in workspace, have play centers, have those little spaces. Like if you are a small company, then make it joyful there. Just have few board games. So
Hmm.
give that free space where people can interact, talk, and they have things to do except for bitching. You know,
That's
they have things to do except for uh, talking what is not going right. So create
that's
book
right.
reading circles, create spaces where people can just be
That's
themselves,
right.
sing,
This is
jam.
also a very funny thing. So I was working in a company. So they had a core team. So the company was in since like 20 years. It was in business, and the core team, like you'll have the CEO is the main boss, and then the core team, five six people who were there almost since start. And they used to basically, obviously the company didn't have anything, any employee engagement or anything, that there was like nothing from his and the boss. So he was like an old school kind of guy, and in those things, no new employee engagement or all those activities to do. So these guys were like 5 6 years. They used to. I'm not kidding you. They are bitching about him. Like they half an hour if they are together, even three guys or four guys or how many ever joined together, they're bitching about the boss, and the employees are right there, like who's a new joinee and all this thing, and they're also like joining in. So this is funny, like what kind of culture. Plus, if you don't like your boss that much, like you are in this company since 20 years, man. So that,
True.
matlab, what kind of environment you are in, like, oh, you're not channeling your
Creating.
this thing where like this is an entertainment for you, like, which is also negative, where talking negatively about someone is an entertainment for you or a release for you. So yeah, that kind of behavior, I feel, should not be displayed, especially to young people who are joining. Like, what will they feel in terms of that thing, and such kind of thing. I feel I advise to people who join companies newly, don't get into. Some employees, they sneakily try to get into you in these conversations where a boss or something, they are gossiping about that all, which I feel you shouldn't get into, especially you're new in the company. So you can get in that zone, like everyone is talking, let me also. So yeah, so keep your release of any kind
I
of a
think we should
stress
have
not
a
in this.
space
Yeah,
for complaint box, random complaint box and confessions. We should have that so that people
yeah,
only place where they have anything negative to say is there. Also, when it comes to this practice, the first instance itself when someone is feeling negative, if that has been if the boss is such that I can share with him directly and confront him and clear that out, then that loop can be avoided. So I think that space really needs that corporate shift has to happen. That shift is very
that's right.
important. That yeah.
That's right. I've noticed this even when, like, you're working in companies and all. I see they, either the whoever is the boss, they overwhelm themselves too much with like targets on targets. So these all finer points they are not paying attention to at all. I mean, employee engagement activities, wellness is not even a concept. I've seen so many companies who have say 100 200 employees, they do nothing in that space. Their employee engagement and this thing will be like once some birthday celebration will be there or this thing. So I mean, you look at today attrition rates, what the Gen Z expects from their employers. See where the thing, like, you'll maybe judge whether your, people, say from a age group 20 to 30, how many are actually being retained in your company. That will be a big this thing for you, where there's not any other external responsibility like of a family. They can leave if they don't feel valued there. So yeah, a lot of interesting conversations that can be had. Awesome. So Ishita, self reflection process, like how do you kind of go about as a marketer? You've done campaigns, some have worked, some have not worked. How do you kind of communicate with your employees as well as your audience and all? How do you kind of have a good self reflection process, not only professionally but also personally?
I think one is journey map. So I believe a lot in Kalu's theory, where he says that everything that's happening outside of us is a reflection of who we are. So, changing the pronouns of anything that you're saying externally and putting it back to yourself. I feel So, for example, if I'm saying that my boss is not understanding my perspective, so I
Hmm.
replace it with I am not understanding my perspective. Is it true? The answer is
Hmm.
always yes. You are not
Hmm.
understanding your perspective. Now go on that reflection journey. Where are you not understanding your perspective? Where are
Hmm.
you devaluing yourself? Where are you disrespecting? And then uh, chart down positive aspects and shift the perspective. So I think that is very, very important. And this is for everyone. When it comes to personal growth, I mean, anything that goes outside of you, if you put it back to yourself, there will be at least one thought that you have spent significant energy towards, and so it has manifested in your life. And this is
Hmm.
like based on the Kalum theory, and this is called mirror exercise, which is very, very effective tool, which I think everybody should use in corporates, because
Hmm.
as we were discussing right now, that we feel that a lot of our a lot of our elders at home, or people at work are not understanding our perspective, or we are being taken for granted, or we are not being valued. So these all perspectives are something that we also feel, we might also be
Hmm.
feeling. So understanding and tapping into it can be one aspect. And when it comes to marketers, also understanding the journey map, you know
Hmm.
how you have evolved, your evolution journey from where you started, from the first campaign to where you are, and understanding that every time the success and failure was very different. It's possible that in my first campaign I was very successful in talking, but in my fifth campaign I was not good with words, but I was good with conceptualization and the objective. So if I start mapping those journey and then taking those strengths out from all and then reinforcing those in me, that can really add a lot to our journey and to our success.
That's right. So Ishita, definitely, like if a certain behavior or some response is being repeated, like you're not getting a good response from your boss or your colleague, and this is happening in one company, second company, somewhere you have to reflect on yourself, like that, how can I change certain things? Then, because you cannot change
Absolutely.
other people, let's be honest. So it's like, what is your self journey? How do I make this better in a present company
And
or
it
any person you
starts
interact?
with first
Yeah,
changing your thought about it. Like,
yeah.
first changing your mindset about it. It's not about you going outside and telling that, because I have seen this has really, really worked for like more than 5,000 people I have trained this
Hmm.
specific technique. And this really works in a marvelous way. So, change your perspective, the way you see yourself, and gradually bring those changes, which will take time, and understand that change, it takes time. It's not going to happen suddenly. Even organization cannot change suddenly. And when organizations are changing, it's even more risky, right? Because then you don't know where you are. It's going to be
That's right.
even more scary situation.
That's
So
right.
being very, very patient with yourself and others and the confidence.
That's right. Self reflection, I feel even the people who are, in an important decision making role is, kind of so important, where somewhere you cave into, these pressures of the external force or competitors or whatever even your superiors would have. And
Right.
it kind of has a negative experience in terms of the people, how you are treating the people, who are reporting to you and all. So uh, if your self-reflection process and how your behavior can be changed is happening from your end, I think that has a major impact on the companies that, can tide through even hard times and can be, successful in the long term. Is these leaders are making those right choices and, having a good amount of self reflection. Like I've seen that where somewhere, like a company, they have a particular CMO, and then after time he leaves the job, and you have another one, and a complete different kind of a mindset or a positive approach or self reflection, it can transform the whole team, because obviously you have, see, the higher up you
It
are
does.
in a
Truly
food
does.
chain of power, you have maximum impact and influence on people. Whether it's, imagine, like, say, it's so important that power, you have that responsibility, because your bad mood can result in a bad mood of 100 people working for you, right? So how much of impact your self reflection process has is so important, the way a lot of people are being treated.
It has a tremendous impact.
Awesome. So, Ishita, obviously, we are living in a time, like you say, FOMO, like fear of missing out. So, like this, there are many other kind of fears we have, whether it's within a society or peer pressure or whatever is there, or way you have to live, or certain life path that you have to have, like those all things. Let's be honest, like maximum pressures are there in a third world countries compared to a country which is totally developed, but you feel that around you also, those things where you can cave into those kind of pressures and fears and all that. So how do you kind of detach yourself from those things, like those kind of fears, and go forward in a more fearless way? Like, easier to say than to do it, but a person who is a little bit more in that scheme of things, where there are more sensitive to these things, how do you kind of break out from all this?
Bearing confidence is like very important
Hmm.
wherever and whichever field you are in. And I think that is the substitute to overcoming fear.
Hmm.
Like, only way that you can risk, you have to practice taking risks in life.
Hmm.
And that comes with two things. First is you getting a platform where you can make mistakes, where you're allowed to make
Hmm.
mistakes, with managers who give you a permission and a sneak dot that you made a mistake, but I'm so glad that you made it right now. So now you know how to do it.
Hmm.
And people also, again, when it comes to specific, when it comes to our campaigns failing, a lot of in-house competition. So I
Hmm.
feel HR has to really jumpshoot the learning agenda and bring that environment in working cultures where failure is appreciated, it is honored, where
Hmm.
where there is a clear boundary when it comes to your tone of voice, where empathy is rewarded. And
Hmm.
fear is a very beautiful emotion actually, because it's only when you are scared of something, you know that there is, when you are scared of something and there is a doubt or there is a segment of jealousy that you have, you know that this is something that you're capable of.
Hmm.
90% of the time, we are jealous of the things which we could not do or which we did not do because either we were lazy or we had given up on ourselves too soon. So it's the time to give in. The only way to overcome fear is to do it. That's the only way. And to have a strategic risk-taking approach um, is to actually, again, be still and know that life is coming to you. Understand that if you do this, you might not have a short-term gain, but maybe a long-term gain. And dots do connect. Yeah.
That's right. Yes, definitely. I think one thing about making yourself more fearless is that perception of judgment. Like, what will a person think if
Absolutely.
something, if you
What
go
will it
wrong and all?
happen?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So somewhere or the other, like, I'm sure everyone, even listeners, will agree. If you are fearing something, let's take a common thing, like, say you're talking, approaching people, you have events, right? Like seminar, and then there is a meeting, like you're scared of maybe approaching one, and when, say, you put in all the courage and it happens with one person, somewhere you feel liberated and you feel, yeah, this was such a minor thing, why I was stopping myself in this. And then when you do
Yeah.
that, then even if you had a bad experience approaching someone, you are like, yeah, it's okay, that person, there's some issue with him, not with me. Like, I'm, in that process of doing,
True.
and I've had successes. So
So
somewhere
if
or
I
the
have to say
other,
my own journey to like what
yeah.
you just said, do
Hmm.
you want to complete your statement?
Yes, yes. No, no, we'll continue. You can tell yours. I'll also chime in on that.
Yeah, so basically, when it comes to my journey, I was a core introvert. And I still remember when I was in school, I was said to be my parents were called because I don't have any expression on my face. So I was a
Mm,
core introvert who could not talk to a person sitting next to me. And today I'm a core extrovert. Now, this shift happened because I had realized over the time that there is no other choice that I have but to overcome my fear from the people pleasing approach that I have. That,
mm,
people would judge me this way, that way. And that only happened when I went on stage. Not that people started throwing a lot of lemons on me and started making fun of me. It never
yes.
happened that way. But it did happen that I was singing and the mic was not working. It did happen that I was not prepared and I had to perform a dance.
Mm,
I had to conduct a dance show. It did happen that I had to speak to 1,000 people and I started fumbling. And yeah, I made a lot of fun of myself that time on the stage. But today, when I look back, I feel so proud of myself because that has helped me
mm.
evolve as a person. Because I mean, nobody could hear my voice, even the person sitting next to me. And today, if I see myself, I would love to have more and more people out there. So I
That's
think
it.
you got to take that risk.
That's it. So that means you have to completely transform yourself, like someone who is a core introvert and would have
Yeah.
issue even talking to. Now you're like in front of a huge
Yes.
audience and you've been an RJ, now voice artist, and like that is the thing I feel like for a young people to learn. Imagine there is something which you are great at and you're just at the other side of the fence and you're not taking that risk, that initial first step only. You could be like a Shah Rukh Khan or acting, whatever. Like you love a king in that domain, and you are not going
True.
across because of so much inhibitions that are there. So
Like if we actually
yeah,
look into the animals kingdom also, lion is not the largest animal. Lion is
mm,
not the strongest animal. I met
mm,
leopard recently. So
yeah,
I'd gone, and leopard is definitely a very shy animal. He or
mm,
she would not come. So leopard will not have food for like 3 4 days. But when it comes to lion, when lion comes out, everyone is scared. Whether
mm,
it's giraffe, whether it's elephant, all animals have their traits. But when lion comes,
mm,
that's the reason he's the king of the jungle because
mm.
he has that personality and aura that he has
That's
created or
it.
she has created. So yeah, I think being fearless comes with taking risk, and lion takes the risk to come in front of humans, but only in front of men. So
That's right.
yeah,
That's right. And actually, obviously, it'll sound a little bit idealistic, like what we are saying. I think strategy
uh,
wise, which I think is work for me also, which I would like to say is, um, say you are doing that where you're introvert, you're not easy to talk to other person. So if you go to these events like seminar network, try like have a target that okay, I'm going to talk to these two people. I don't care whether I get anything out of it or what. Don't judge
true.
those people, just have that interaction like a target base ki okay mujhe karna hi hai. Like you see many sales people, unko karna hi hai, like they have to approach, that is their job. Like you'll then push yourself within it.
True.
So you'll be surprised like how much you're able to do. Like you had a target of 2, you've met like 10 people, and then once that flow happens, no one can stop. It's always about getting in that flow. Okay,
Yeah.
that particular task is being done, and there's a sense of achievement, and then you kind of go along it. But definitely, see, everybody, there are different strengths and different things within them, weaknesses and all. One thing for one person would be so straightforward. For the other person, you have to train for a year for that, for example. So you have to look at this. It's not everyone not equal in their values. Not only if you say economically or any other way. There are hundreds of other things. So everyone not equal. So everyone will have the challenges. So don't consider somebody who is from a big family. He has money. What tension he'll have. What is the achievement for him and all that. They will also have quite a few problems. Everybody is not gifted with everything. So that's we kind of go about like what you have to do in this particular process to improve yourself. And I feel having an ambition definitely helps you to kind of improve yourselves in many ways. Awesome.
Absolutely.
So so lastly, Ishita, emotional intelligence is something which last few years is being discussed a lot compared to and IQ, that is intelligence quotient. So that is more, I think, the analytical skills and all these things. But how do you feel you can develop this more? Because end of the day, marketer or any artist, they have to create things which connect, and connect only happens when you are understanding that person from the core. They're emotionally intelligent in a way. So how do you kind of increase your emotional intelligence?
Yeah, so as you rightly said, it's we are no more living in the USP era, it's ESP, emotional
Hmm.
selling proposition, all that we are living for. And right now, the employees have to have a very strong connection to the products and services that they are delivering. They should really feel that the value of it. And the more and more they use it, the more and more they understand, the more they can communicate it to the target audience. Also, when it comes to emotional intelligence per se, how you're communicating, like, that needs to, that actually comes with the kind of empathy that you build with it. Also, the way you
Hmm.
communicate, like how clear you are with the concept, how much do you know about the product, how much do you know about the services, and how again you are channelizing those information. So if you have a negative feedback, even if you're giving a positive perspective, that sometimes backfires, because then you will agree very soon. If someone
Hmm.
says that this cannot be sold or this is not good enough, I got a better package there, then you will agree that yeah, this is true. So
Hmm.
yeah, that is what I feel.
Yeah, that's right. I think you have to hold your own, like where you gave a good example where you can't get kind of swayed even when there are places like when you have a meeting and your boss is there. You have to point out certain things which in the long term, what they're observing, you are observing, can benefit the company,
True.
or certain change that can happen. um, and that is with an emotion, the way it's conveyed, right? It cannot be
Hmm.
where thoda sa I am getting like an authority over the, there is a power dynamic, so you have to maintain that. But it has to be about executing. End of the day, if you see these guys, CEOs of companies now, which have come up a lot, or people who you have seen the career path, like they have achieved quite a lot within the corporate also. They are open for that because they know their success, the company's success is going to have an impact. So you, whatever bias they have towards you and all, that doesn't matter. They will work towards that. This is benefiting in a long term,
True.
so they will be always open
And
for
there
it.
should
So
be. Yeah. There
that's
should
right.
be. Like what you said, there should be. Like there should be open door policies.
That's right. Your emotional definitely, I think. But any Ishita, anything they can practice to increase it, like specifically as a activity.
Yeah, I think one is definitely journaling. Them understand, like the ones which I said, like one is definitely journaling. The other is them getting a space where they can reach out. Open door policy is where I feel leaders should be easily approachable. And when it comes to building stronger connections, there should be this feeling of belongingness that we need to create. More of togetherness. That if I need help, so this person has this strength, so let me ask him. So like we used to have a lot of clubs in universities, so we should
Hmm.
have in-house hackathons and clubs in corporates where we get to know that this person can help. Suppose a person in marketing can teach a person in HR a new skill to sell and to find the right candidate. So
Hmm.
we can have a lot of such mixed creative thinking and different approaches where people can come in together.
That's right. I think where the different departments also mixing, because I have observed
Yeah,
many
cross
companies,
cultural.
we are all working in silos, and you don't even know what's happening. Like marketing guy is not
True.
even knowing what is happening in the engineering, how they're making the product or something. So it has a, I mean, if you have more interact, they can contribute more, even forget all these aspects. Like if you are just a businessman doing about business, and that way, even I would say the contributions that they give, inputs, it is going to have a business impact. So even if you look at from that lens, that is there. Plus they will get their perspective, like why is it so hard if a certain feature has to come, what is the thing, even a
Hmm.
boss's perspective, what is he facing, like when he is making those decisions, why is he not able
Yeah.
to put a certain budget, is he planning to, what is his plans, like is this going to happen? Sometimes you feel, no, this is not going to happen at all. What I've seen from him, he's not going to invest in this particular uh, campaign or activity. But then could be down the line they are planning this. They have not put out budget. So that's where
Absolutely.
the communication comes and
So, me,
able to understand better.
like what you just said, a project management, a person who is in project management can actually help the decision making leaders team to create better charts, to put things
Mm.
in right format. And the more organized they are, the more the decisions can be made faster. So yeah, I feel that well, like you rightly said, like cross cultural uh, dimension would really bring new transformation to the organization.
That's right. Awesome. So I think it's been a great, session here with Ishita. We had
Thank you.
awesome, awesome discussions on, this mindset, basically, for the working professionals, how they have to go about. So, Ishita, any closing words for the audience? Also, then a little bit about your services, what you are providing, and what all companies can expect. Let's say if they are hiring you for the same.
I think, firstly, thank you for this opportunity. It was really good to be here and see things from a marketing perspective. I feel if you really want to empower and bring change in the brands that you are, start seeing brands as humans and personify them. I understand that we are all empathy driven people. So, create joyful spaces where people work for their homes so that they go back to your homes with better smiles and they feel satisfied at the end of the day. And I think every leader should just focus that their company, that people in that their employees are really happy. If that happens, I think the right thing would happen.
That's right. And about your services that you offer, Ishita?
Yeah, so basically, I work closely with corporate wellness, and I do it for different organizations where I create training modules. And also, when it comes to empowering workshops on building confidence, brand personification, and yeah, that's it.
Awesome, awesome. Great. So I think it's been, I think, great session wherein like we got really into the depth of it. Even my podcast now, I'm channelizing into more just not marketing and this thing. Now we are looking at a lot of various different other aspects, different topics also. Within that, we are discussing so many like interesting people like you will try to approach, where they will give their perspective, what they learned over their journey, what they can contribute to society with their learnings they've had over the years. Awesome. So, to the audience, thank you. Please subscribe to the MI podcast on all the major platforms that are there. And definitely on YouTube, also, you can subscribe to us. And any feedback and all, you can share the same with all our content out there. Thanks a lot. Thanks for your time. I'll see you. Take care.
Thank you.